Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View. This morning, is Martin O'Neill in the driving seat for the Celtic job, or do are Celtic looking for someone that can give them a bit more European presence? That would mean bringing in the likes of Kudson. It's an interesting one and something that we'll chat about as the morning goes on. But I think that we need to get to the big news of last night and the war of words that's now growing between the Celtic fans and the Celtic board. There does seem to be a growing war of words that doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon, does it? Talk about the games this weekend. First of all, when we look at the games, Celtic obviously don't play until tomorrow. That's over there. The games today, Livingston are away to Falkirk. That's at 3 o'clock. It's the only Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff that we have. The only Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff. Hibernian are away to St Mirren. That'll be an interesting game because we need to watch St Mirren and see how they are coping as we have a game against St Mirren coming up in the not too distant future. And then tomorrow, there's quite a lot of 3 o'clock kickoffs tomorrow. Aberdeen entertain a Motherwell. That's a good game to watch. Dundee host Rangers. The Rangers are away to Dundee. That's always a tasty game because I've got to say Dundee like putting the boot into Rangers, don't they? Heart of Midlothian versus Dundee United is the other 3 o'clock kickoff tomorrow. And then at 4 o'clock, Celtic Park, Celtic take on Kilmarnock. And that's always a tasty game because Kilmarnock have always given us a good game. Kilmarnock used to be our bogey team, remember, years ago. I remember under Tommy Burns, we just couldn't get results against Kilmarnock at all. We drew so many games against them that season. It was unbelievable. And it went on for several years. I mean, Kilmarnock were a big bogey team for Celtic at one point. But when we look at the table, and it is a little bit different. And Hearts are obviously top of the table. Still, Celtic need to make inroads. Will they be able to make inroads this weekend? I very much doubt it. I think Hearts will still win the game this weekend. Celtic are sitting second in the table, 20 points, 9 points behind Hearts. It's a massive gap. I mean, people are saying that Hearts will fall away. I don't think that they will fall away the way that Aberdeen did. I mean, Aberdeen imploded. Absolute imploded last year. They had European football to contend with as well, and that's what kind of made them run out of steam. Hearts don't have European football to worry about. So they've got everything focused on the league. We're sitting here in November. Will they lose 3 games on the trot in December? I doubt it. Is it inconceivable they'll lose 3 games over the course of the season? No, it's not. I think that they will drop more games. It is championship. Let's not lie. It's championship contender stuff when you've only drawn 2 games this far into the season. And to say it's not is take your green tinted specs off, because it is. We have to now see them, and especially if we go into December, if we get to the end of December, through that busy period, even into January, and they're still 9 points ahead. 6 points ahead. We win our game, we're back to 6 points. And then you're thinking, yeah, we can do it. And then it becomes a little bit easier. You can start just game by game. Anyway, Hibernian are in 3rd place in the SPFL. Rangers are in 4th position. Falkirk are in 5th. Motherwell are in 6th. Dundee United and 7th position. St Mirren, you keep an eye out for that one. St Mirren, they are in 8th position. Aberdeen are up to 9th position after being rock bottom at the bottom of the table for so long this season. And when you look at that, they've been on a good little run. They've won 3 games in the last 5. Kilmarnock have lost 4 out of the last 5 games. They're sitting on -5. Will tomorrow be the goal fest? Will tomorrow be the goal fest? I mean, we can laugh all we want, but I mean, we're threadbare when it comes to the striking positions. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. Dundee are in 11th and Livingston are in 12th position. When you look at the games tomorrow, there's some tasty ones. Celtic need to go on a goal fest, because when Hearts take on Dundee United, they'll be expecting to win against Dundee United. They kick off an hour before Celtic, and the game won't be finished by the time Celtic start, which is maybe a good thing. Hopefully it's at 0-0 and it gives Celtic that little impetus to go, come on, it's the last game at Celtic Park before the international break. Let's go out and prove to these fans that you're better than what the Michelin score said. Let's go out and put a great performance on at Celtic Park. Let's go out and get the fans making as much noise as possible, because we're playing fast, attacking football, trying to score goals. Will it be the game that Shin Yamada finally makes the bench for Celtic? And there's a big question mark over that, lad. A massive question mark over that, lad. But we'll talk about the game tomorrow in just a minute, because the Celtic Trust yesterday, they put out a statement, as did the Celtic Fans Collective, because there was another bit of news that sort of wasn't really spoken about last night, but we'll speak about it this morning. The Celtic Fans Collective put out a statement saying it has come to our attention that shareholders have been blocked from proxying their votes to Celtic Trust ahead of the upcoming AGM, which the club has claimed is due to a technical fault within the voting system. This issue has only affected those with voting with the Celtic Trust. It's a surprise, that, isn't it? That is a surprise. Come on, the Celtic Trust have been an organisation for years now. I'm not sure how long they've been on the go, but it's a minimum of 15 years. I know that, but the Celtic Trust are trying to get as much votes as possible so that they can actually have a say or get a point put across at the AGM. The timing is deeply troubling when the Celtic Trust has taken part in AGMs for over 20 years without, over 20 years without issue, yet the moment when the pressure on the board is at its highest, supporters calling for real structural and strategic change, the voice of small shareholders is being obstructed. How would you feel about that one? And then obviously there was the one from the Green Brigade. The Green Brigade put out a statement last night after Celtic banned the Green Brigade. So we're not going to talk about it in big, we're just going to talk about the response from the Green Brigade. You can all have your debates off air, or you can have them in the comments. I'll not be reading them this morning. Following the Celtic Trust announcement this morning that the Celtic FC has inhibited further attack on supporters by banning the Green Brigade for at least 6 matches. The ban encompasses 3 home games, 3 away games. At the beginning of the Kilmarnock game this Sunday, the 9th of November, we were informed of this ban at 5:46 on Friday the 7th of November, almost a week and 2 days after the alleged incident. I'm just going to call it an alleged incident at this time because it is an ongoing thing that we can't really talk about, is it? Which in itself is unacceptable. I'm not getting into a debate this morning. The ban is an activation of the suspended sentence which was applied at the beginning of the season because fans accessed other sections of the stadium without permission to display Palestine flags. The suspended sentence was an activation fundamentally unfair and out of step of any fair process, and is totally unprecedented. During the period of consistent and growing pressure against the Celtic board, this ban is nothing more than a cynical attempt to lock out such sentiment and buy the Celtic board some relief. I never wrote the statement, by the way, before anybody asks. The justification for the ban is disingenuous, similar to previous bans. It's another example of the concerning relationship between Celtic FC and Police Scotland, which stretches many years and has been well documented. It follows the appointment of Mark Hargreaves, the former Chief Superintendent of Police Scotland and HM Assistant Inspector of fucking who cares, Constable of Scotland, as head of security operations in the summer. Another copper that's been brought in by Celtic, but you know, these things happen. The head of security, who would you rather? An ex-copper or an ex-military man? Talking about ex-coppers, no, don't go down that road today, Faz. Since the appointment of the level of security around the standing section has dramatically increased, including the placement of police officers on the concourse, which was a break from previous agreement that no police would be in the standing section or its concourse. This agreement followed by supporter feedback, particularly those have the effective strategy of documenting police officers responsible for harassing on social media. It goes on to say that the ban also follows a disappointing Fairhurst report, which unreasonably delayed. The lack of conviction has had zero follow-up from Celtic FC, despite multiple commitments to do so, including at the meeting with the Celtic Fans Collective on the 6th of the 10th, 2025. In case anyone has forgotten, the Fairhurst report in relation to unlawful 5 hours detention of hundreds of Celtic fans on London Road before a derby on the 16th of March 2025, when the Celtic fan base were kettled. Celtic fan base were kettled for 5 hours, made sure that they weren't allowed to go into the game, whilst at the same time that day, Rangers ultras were allowed to walk to Celtic Park, fully masked, faces covered, and walked right into Celtic Park with their faces covered. They're going about two-tier policing in Scotland, and it's definitely there. Once again, the Celtic board has chosen to side with the Police Scotland on their assistance of police harassment against the supporters. We finally encourage all Celtic supporters to continue to back the Celtic Fans Collective, to commit to not another penny boycott, and to sustain the pressure on the Celtic board for positive change at our football club. Your efforts are clearly working until the last rebel. I mean, you could go off on a tangent here and say, well, is the boycott working? Is the not another penny working? Especially when you have an opening event at Celtic Superstore in town. You have Celtic fan media interviewing people, buying merchandise. It's all up in the air, isn't it? But let's get back to the football talk, and let's get back to the chat of the game to tomorrow. Yeah, it's tomorrow, Baz. Just calm yourself. Let's change that scene, get rid of that. Anyway, let's jump into the comment section and see who is all on this morning, because I've not even said good morning to anyone. Why are faces covered at football? Liam, football fans have had their faces, scarves over their faces for as long as you can remember. I can remember doing it back in the 1980s. So grow up. Why are faces covered at football? It happened back in the 80s. It's happened a lot longer than just ultras. Stop picking a fight with people. Anyway, why are police's faces covered up? Could ask the same question. To protect their identity, it says. Oh yeah, it's okay to protect their identity. Protect them from what? Aren't they meant to be the law? Aren't they meant to be helping the community? Aren't they meant to be there for our protection and help? Oh yes, this is very, 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 very true. But we're not getting into an argument about that this morning, because there is a massive game tomorrow, and Celtic are without a few strikers. Celtic are up shit creek without a paddle when it comes to the striking department, due to the inability of the board over the last transfer window to bring in a suitable replacement for the previous manager, Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers called out for a replacement after Celtic sold Kyogo Furiashi back in December, almost a year ago. when you think about it, Callum Osmond out injured. Dice Maeda hasn't been playing 100%. Johnny Kenny's our only recognised striker, but there's Shin Yamada, who's not really had much game time at Celtic. We don't know enough about the player who was born on the 30th of May 2000. Signed for Celtic on the 19th of July 2025. Made his debut in a 2-0 win over Aberdeen on the 10th of August. He's only 5'9". Jesus. He's not exactly a big lad, is he? But then neither was Kyogo. But Kyogo played quite well for Celtic. At the time he said, it's a huge honour for me to be able to be here as a Celtic player. I can't wait to begin my time at this amazing club. And then Brendan Rodgers decided that he wasn't going to be in the Europa squad, dropping him out of the Europa squad and bringing in his friend late on, even though Shin Yamada had been brought in before Kelechi Iheanacho. Iheanacho was obviously brought in by Brendan Rodgers. It was a strange one, that, because the Spanish club that he was at allowed him just to rip up his contract, which was a bit bizarre, and then moved to Celtic on a free. He has obviously been at Middlesbrough, Leicester City, Manchester City over the years, and Sevilla just previous, and Sevilla allowed him to rip up his contract. When he was at Leicester, he went on to make over 200 appearances, but he was seen as, one of Brendan's favourites. He is also out injured. The starting lineup today, I mean, some people will say, look, do we finally drop Kasper Schmeichel? He made some great saves at the game the other night, but ultimately there has been a cry to drop Schmeichel. There was a cry to drop Schmeichel for the cup games. He was dropped for the early cup games. Sinisalo was brought in. Sinisalo's bound to be feeling, but maybe, just maybe, I don't think it will happen, because I'm going to say it, Martin O'Neill likes older players, more experienced players, so I don't think that he will drop Sinisalo from the team this weekend, which is a shame for the lad, because I think that Sinisalo distributes the ball a bit better. But then again, you have to say that, the current keeper is doing quite well when it comes to getting the ball out under the new manager. So I think it will be Schmeichel in goals tomorrow. Defenders, well, the Austin Trusty effect. Austin Trusty's come out and said that he thinks that Rangers are just making him a target man. And it will be Austin Trusty and Liam Scales tomorrow. Will Jamal Pusey get onto the bench? Never mind even the team, will even get onto the bench. Or will it be Dane Murray? When we look at Sriracha, obviously Cameron Carter-Vickers is out injured. Hateo Inamura, he's not going to get any game time because we brought in Sriracha. A lot of people are saying, look, bring in Sriracha. It was mentioned last night that Celtic may be interested in bringing a Liverpool left back to Celtic, because it's just the way that Celtic do things. They don't give a shit about a manager, and they just go out there and they bring in players, and the manager has to deal with that. Dane Murray, he will definitely be on the bench. Sriracha will be on the bench. Who will start? Will it be Sriracha or will it be Kieran Tierney? I think the Celtic will revert back to Sriracha for this game. Big one, Ralston. It shows how weak we are in that area when Alistair Johnston isn't ready to play games yet. Colby Donovan has taken an absolute pounding on social media for his part in a certain game. Tony Ralston, for as good as he is, we all know the standards of the Bricky. He is just that. He's just, he's never going to be top European class, although he does play for every single Scotland game, which is a bit bizarre, and he seems to do okay for Scotland. But when you're playing in Europe competition, it's a little bit harder. The midfield, does Paulo Bernardo get a start over Benji? I would, personally. I don't think, I'm surprised that Benji wasn't one of the players that was taken off at the game at the week during the week. He was one player that was in the midfield. If he had done more in the first half in defending from the front, I think that it could have been a different game. But he was a man down, he was a man missing at the weekend on Thursday night. Just my opinion. I mean, it might not be yours, but it's just my opinion. I think he was a man missing in the first half. Arne Engels, a lot of people, Arne Engels isn't going to be fit for this game, is he? It doesn't look like he will be fit for this game, so he is out with a slight hamstring. They're hoping it's just a tightening, which means he will miss out. So your midfield, who is it going to be? Is it going to be Paulo Bernardo? Is it going to be, it will be Callum McGregor being the club captain. Will Rio Hatate get back in? Or will he go with Paulo Bernardo and a big slap in the face to Rio Hatate? Will he play Benji and Paulo Bernardo in this game? Paulo Bernardo will feel that he's due some game time. Rio Hatate took the ball off of Callum Osmond. And it would have been a bittersweet moment if he had just left Callum with the ball and allowed Callum to score his goal. But Callum is now out until it could be his season over. There's also talk about that Jota will not be back until March at the earliest. I was talking on social media last night about Jota and the fact that he will be out until August, which isn't great for Jota and all the Jota lovers out there. So who would be your midfield three? For me, it's going to be Paulo Bernardo. It is going to be Benji, and I think it's going to be Callum McGregor with Rio Hatate spat his dummy out and sitting on the bench again. Further forward, Jota is obviously out. Kelechi is out. Yang is shite. Mikael Ange Balakwisha, for a club that's chased a player for so long, I'm surprised at he's not up there with Tenekti. Tenekti, for me, and there's talk of Leeds already looking at Tenekti in the next transfer window. Celtic would be absolutely crazy to sell Tenekti. Shin Yamada, he should make the bench considering Callum Osmond is out. So we will see Shin Yamada, even if it is on the bench. Johnny Kenny will start the game again tomorrow. I think the front three will be Tenekti, Dyson, Maeda. Or will they go with James Forrest just to make sure as we go into the international break? And it'll be interesting. Has Dyson been called up for the national team with Rio Hatate? I'm not too sure. I've never had a look at that. But anyway, tell me your thoughts on the team for tomorrow. We will be doing, obviously, the normal videos tomorrow. We'll be going live at 9 a.m. Celtic Park time, and then an hour and a half before the game. And I'm not even sure if I'm going to do a watch-along, to be honest. After the last couple of watch-alongs, it's just been insufferable. I might go to the pub, because then there's no football for a couple of weeks. And then just do a live later on at night. Yeah, that could be a plan. Big plan. Not that I'm abandoning the watch-alongs. That was just woeful and hurtful, and just the feeling I've got. I think there's going to be some atmosphere at Celtic Park tomorrow, that's sure, with obviously no Green Brigade. It's going to be interesting to see if the Boys Ultras group will also stand out, if they will decide to sit out the games with their comrades as they have done before. in certain band situations at Celtic, which means that Celtic Park will not have the singing section from the Ultras. But if Celtic get their finger out and play the way that they have done under Martin O'Neill, the wider audience of Celtic Park generally gets up and starts singing Martin O'Neill, and maybe some other songs might come out tomorrow. You never ever know. It's going to be an interesting day. It's going to be an interesting week, because Celtic still, it's no further forward when it comes to the manager situation. Martin O'Neill, is he in the driving seat? Is Martin O'Neill the man that Celtic could turn to just see out the season? Would Martin O'Neill want the job on a more permanent basis? Martin O'Neill was coming and said, no, look, I'm just happy. I'm waiting for them to pick up the phone and say, look, your time's done. He's never said that he wouldn't take the job long term, but he's kind of said that, look, I'm just enjoying my time whilst I'm here. I do not think I will be here long term. I think if he was going to get the call, he would have had it by now, surely. But then again, that would be... There's two ways to look at it. You could say that the manager that Celtic have went for has turned them down, and Martin O'Neill was just a backup, and you know, it's where do you go? Because if you have Martin O'Neill to the end of the season, you see him through the next transfer window. He said that he does not want to. He's not had any talks about the next transfer window. He's not spoke about people that are due to look at prospects coming to the club. It's a strange old situation that we've got at Celtic. Anyway, on that note, have an absolutely fantastic day wherever you are. Should we go? There's only one game on today. Is there any point in going live at 4:45? I mean, it's only Falkirk Livingston that's on. If I'm not doing nothing else, I might do a watch along on the other channel later on. If I'm not doing anything, if I'm bored for a few hours. I don't mean that in a bad way. Anyway, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.